Hi there, it's Sarah here from BJC Health, coming to you from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for showing an interest in one of our educational events. You're about to watch part one, so enjoy the event. If you've got any questions about the content, then please consider joining BJC Connect, where you can access all of our facilitators live. Otherwise, please consider leaving a comment and we'll do our best to get back to you.
Hi everybody, thank you Sarah. Yes, please, the more questions the better. I'm going to try and not over talk it, even though this is something that I've been doing for a really long time and have some personal experience myself with the low FODMAP diet. I want to just talk about sensitivities to start with, because this is something that I've talked to clients a lot over the last 25 years, is whether people have a sensitivity, whether they have an allergy, which is different to having a food intolerance or a food insensitivity, and then what to do about it. What kind of elimination do I do? Do I just do dairy? Do I just do wheat? Do I do the RPAH elimination diet, the Royal Prince Alfred elimination diet? Or do I now do the low FODMAP diet, which has been around for quite a long time now? That's probably been around for at least 20 years. There was a time where the low FODMAP seemed very new, and thankfully it's no longer like that. So, I mean, the FODMAP has been a very important part of my practice for a really long time, and I know that it's helped a lot of clients. It's not successful for everybody, but if you have food insensitivities that particularly cause issues with your gut, then low FODMAP can be a good solution for a lot of people. Whereas if you have other food intolerances that might cause things like migraines or lots of headaches, whether you have hives or eczema or even asthma and or sinus issues, it probably for most people was a good idea to try the Royal Prince Alfred elimination diet, which is quite challenging. I'll be very, very honest. I have spent many, many years saying to people, I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on this, but it's really effective again if the sensitivity that's happening for you is what that elimination diet is designed for. It's the same with FODMAP. FODMAP can be extremely successful if your insensitivity or your intolerance is what the FODMAP has been designed for. So my purpose tonight is to try and discuss with you the differences between the two. And then I'm going to go a little bit more into the low FODMAP diet, because we get asked a lot about what does this mean? How long does it take? What are the challenges like? So I'm going to show you what that looks like for somebody who goes down that path. Before I do that, if you think you've got a true allergy, you would talk to your GP and you would be referred to an immunologist. You might have some RAS testing. That's where they put a big stamp on your arm, and on that stamp will be a variety of things like nuts, fish, egg, dairy, wheat. Then they might go into dust and grasses. And what they do is they very, very gently flick your skin. So there's like a little cut in your skin, and they put the allergen drops on top of it. And depending on whether you react, you'll end up with a hive, like a big red mark. And the bigger the red mark, obviously the more allergic you are. And that can mean that you have potentially a true allergy, which is different to having an intolerance. If you have a gluten, a true gluten allergy, you will have celiac disease. If you have an intolerance, you'll have lots of stomach issues. So there is a difference between allergy and insensitivity. And what some people need to do first and foremost is make sure they don't have a true allergy. Once you know you don't have a true allergy, you go down the elimination diet path. And unfortunately, the only way you can do that is eliminate the known foods that can cause the symptoms that you have. and then put them back in one by one and challenge them. If you are doing the elimination diet, the Prince Alfred elimination diet, you are basically going really low on natural food chemicals. These are salicylates, amines, glutamates, and then a lot of people with that do dairy and gluten. And then it's all the things we add to food to give it flavor. So more the preservatives and the man-made stuff. So that's MSG, propionates, benzoates, nitrates, food colorings are all part of the elimination diet. So you're looking at natural chemicals in food as well as what we add as preservatives and flavor enhancers, etc. It takes about 4 months to get through the elimination diet. You exclude for 4 to 6 weeks. If you're an adult, it's closer to 6 weeks. If you're a child, it's more on the 4-week side. It can be quite terrible around the 10-day mark where you feel really unwell. So it's that case of you're going to feel worse before you feel better. And then at that 4 to 6 week mark, you start to make a call as to whether or not whatever's happening for you is getting better. And if it is, then it's worth going through the challenges, and the challenges take quite a long time because you're doing salicylates, amines, glutamates all separately, and then you're doing MSGs, propionates, benzoates, sorbates, nitrates, food colorings, and sulfites. And so it can take 3 months to do all of those challenges because you do them from anywhere from 3 days to 7 days. And then if you've reacted, you need to wait for your reactions to go down whilst you continue to do before you start the next challenge. And so it's pretty full on. The food that you're on is extremely basic. If you do, there's 3 tiers of that elimination diet. There is the, you can do where you just eliminate the very high and the high foods of the salicylates, amines, and glutamates. That's one tier. Some people do that. You can eliminate the moderates, the highs, and the very highs. Or you can go all the way down and you do the simplified foods, which means you're not left with a lot, unfortunately. So I won't go into everything you can and can't eat because that will take forever. But if you feel like your symptoms are more related to respiratory, headaches, hives, eczema, those types of symptoms, it would be very much worth trying the elimination diet. And every so often, sometimes from someone telling me what their symptoms are, I might be able to say to them, look, if that's your symptom, just do a low amine. I think it's amines. And sometimes we hit the nail on the head. The person gets to eliminate a lot less food. They feel better within a month. They do the challenge and they don't feel good and they know it's amines. But for most people, they have to do this very strict elimination to get the answers that they need. The good news about the low FODMAP diet is that if you're having the sensitivities of bloating and excessive wind or stomach pains and cramps, nausea, for some people it works if they have reflux, but that is not what it was designed for. It was mainly for the lower stomach issues. I feel like over the years that FODMAP is actually easier for most people to do. The elimination is shorter. It's usually 2 to 4 weeks. And then you do the challenges. There are 8 separate challenges, and I'll show you some slides in a moment. There are 8 separate challenges, and they all run for up to 5 days. But if you react, your challenge days are actually less. And most people can do the low FODMAP full system from elimination through to their challenges in about 2.5 to 3 months. But you do need to choose the elimination that works best for you, depending on what your sensitivities are. Sarah, do we have any questions about the differences before I show some specific low FODMAP slides?
No, I think you're good to keep going so far. But good reminder for people, yeah, feel free if you're starting to mose over some questions, pop them in the chat. But yeah, Monica will go through some FODMAP stuff now.
Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to hope that it works.
Yeah, you're good.
I just have to find my little slideshow. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Okay, so when we talk FODMAPs, people say to me, well, what are they exactly? So FODMAPs, again, are natural. They're natural sugars and carbohydrates that are found in food. But some people with irritable bowel, they poorly absorb these sugars. They act as a food source to bacteria in the large intestine. And when they're not absorbed properly, they ferment in your gut. And basically, this fermentation can cause bloating, gassiness and excessive wind, pain, loose stools, diarrhea, for some people, constipation and nausea. The loose stools and the diarrhea are probably more common, but one of the very typical patterns for people with IBS is that they go between loose stools and constipation. So they might have a lot of trouble going to the bathroom very frequently, and then might not go for 3 or 4 days, and then the process starts again. Okay, what does the FODMAP stand for? So the F stands for the fermentation, the fermentable. The O stands for oligosaccharides, which include galacto-oligosaccharides, which is in your lentils and your legumes. Disaccharides are lactose, so in your dairy. Monosaccharides are like your fructose in your fruit, and polyols. And polyols are divided into what we call sorbitols and mannitols. And so these we know are very typically the sensitivities that people will have that will cause a lot of these gut problems. And in the past, before FODMAP came about, what dietitians would do is lactose intolerance was very well known, that people would have sensitivities to lactose. And so people would go on a low lactose diet, or they would eliminate lactose altogether. And they would do that for 2-3 weeks, see if they felt better. And often patients would come back and they would say, I do feel a bit better, but I'm still bloated. And so unfortunately, what often happened then is that people would start having the lactose again, and then they might, the dietitian might say, well, I wonder if you would feel better if you didn't have as much wheat or gluten. So let's take that out. And then they would go and try that, and then come back and go, yeah, I feel a bit better. But in the meantime, they've been having some lactose again. And so Sue Shepherd, who's the dietitian in Australia that kind of discovered the low FODMAP diet, she was kind of thinking in her clinic, what do I do with this? What if I take the lactose and the gluten out at the same time? And what about some of the other things like fructose, which people can be very sensitive to in fruit, and do that at the same time? And what about the onion and garlic fructans that people can be sensitive to, and the legumes and lentils? And let's just take them all out at once. And then obviously the polyols got put in there as well. And people were feeling a lot better. And she came to think, okay, well, if we take them all out at once and then we individually test them one at a time, maybe my patients, my clients can find out what is causing their issues. And then she had some really good success with this. She went to see a gastroenterologist at Monash University in Melbourne. She lives in Melbourne. And he said, I think you're onto something. And they started some studies. And now we're 20 years later, and there is a whole big FODMAP centre where they do all the testing. And it's become a really effective way of helping people manage irritable bowel if, in fact, they have sensitivities to these high FODMAP foods. And for some people, I have found over the years, at BJC, and a lot of my clients are also managing arthritis, inflammation, and pain, that for some people, managing what's happening with their gut actually then follows through to help them with how they feel with their arthritis. Managing potentially the inflammation that might be happening around how your body responds to these sensitivities then might help with the inflammation that you have in other parts of your body. If you've got more energy and you're feeling better, because a lot of people with irritable bowel feel like they're very tired. I was about to say, feel like, you know, trucks hit them half the time if they've been sitting on the toilet all the time. If you're bloated, it's not a nice feeling to have. Once those things settle down, often they find that they can manage other symptoms and other health conditions better. So that's something to keep in mind, that these things can flow across into what else you're trying to manage. Not to mention that the research of the day, that in the last however many years, so much about our health now, the research is trying to see more and more how much it is connected to your gut health. And we think quite a lot of chronic disease might be coming from imbalances that are happening in your gut. So this is very much a high interest area, along with gut microbiome, probiotics, prebiotics, all of these topics, because the sense is that if we can help people with their gut health, we will be helping them decrease the risk of other chronic conditions and or manage them better if they have it. So phase 1 of the low FODMAP diet is the elimination of the high FODMAP foods. And we usually do this for 2 to 4 weeks. There are a lot of foods that you have to avoid, but it's not doable, if you know what I mean. If you kind of take some time, I always say to my clients, take a few days to just absorb what you can and can't have, get some resources. So BJC has a low FODMAP e-cookbook that you can download from our website. I think it's only $18. It's like quite cheap. And it has a lot of recipes. I think it's got 60 or more recipes on how to cook meals that are low FODMAP. It has 4 weeks worth of meal plans so that you can get an idea of what to cook and how to put it all together, breakfast, lunch and dinner. There's a list of snacks as well as with some recipes. And there is a pantry list, a fridge list and a freezer list. So things to have around that will help you. In addition to that, nowadays, you can Google low FODMAP recipes and get hundreds of them. When I did the low FODMAP diet in my 20s, which is quite some time ago now, there were no recipes. I think I was one of the first people, one of the first dietitians in Sydney who tried low FODMAP on herself because of my symptoms that came from a very severe case of food poisoning. So at least, I think the statistics are that at least a quarter of irritable bowel cases come from people who have had food poisoning. And I dealt with symptoms for 6 years, pretty severe ones. And then this came across my desk one day when I was in my first year of being a dietitian. And I thought, what do I have to lose? I'm going to give this a go. And it was my saving grace. It was everything I needed it to be. And since then, I've been helping people with the low FODMAP diet. So now there are tons of recipes. There's plenty of places to get resources. The Monash University Low FODMAP app is really, really useful. I think it costs about $15. It is a green, yellow, orange and red light system of what you can and can't eat when you're doing the elimination. It also has recipes associated with the app, and it makes life with what can I and what can't I eat so much easier. So I definitely recommend the Low FODMAP app. Once you've done the elimination, if it has been helpful. So for some people, unfortunately, it's not helpful. But where it is helpful is that when you go and see a gastroenterologist, if you're having lots of gut problems that you think are to do partially with food or not, you can say to the gastro, I've done the low FODMAP diet, I know it doesn't work for me. And that's an important part of putting the puzzle together of what they can then do for you if you've got this out of the way. Some people do it in reverse. They go and see a gastroenterologist first. They eliminate whether they have celiac, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all very important conditions to make sure that we're not missing the diagnosis of. So you might go and do that first and then come and do the low FODMAP diet. I've seen clients that do it both ways, and there's a path no matter which order you do it in. But once you've done the low FODMAP diet, we then do a challenge process where one by one, you are going to test for fructose, lactose, onion fructans, garlic fructans, polyol mannitol, polyol sorbitol, wheat and gluten fructans, and GOSs, which are galacto-oligosaccharides. And basically, you do these for up to 5 days, and then you have rest days in between. And if you've had a flare, you might need more rest days before you start the next challenge. But ideally, what happens in these 8 challenges is people don't feel well for X amount of them. And that shows us where your triggers are and helps us to put together what foods you can reintroduce into your diet and how to balance the frequency and the doses, the amount of the foods that you are sensitive to, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can never eat them again. I've worked out a very beautiful way of having balance in your life where you don't have to give up all of your sensitivities. If you're a bit unlucky like me, you will be sensitive to all 8. But I eat pretty much all 8. It's just in a balance that helps to keep all of my symptoms under control. If you're really lucky, you might only have 1 or 2 triggers. And for some people, they decide, great, I can live without that thing. And then they've completely settled their symptoms and they move on as if they don't have any gut issues or potentially they have a sensitivity, but then they just don't eat it and they can almost forget that they've got an insensitivity, if you know what I mean. So the challenges will take a little bit of time. Once we've done the challenges, we do reintroduction first, where we bring back the FODMAP groups that you did not have problems with. And then we just make sure that when you've put them all back in together, that you continue not to have a big flare from that. And then once you've done that successfully, we experiment with tolerance levels, and that's your personal tolerance to your trigger foods if desired. Now, the if desired is around the idea that a lot of your high FODMAP foods are extremely healthy for you. And they are, for the most part of your anti-inflammatory eating plan. So high FODMAP foods are a lot of your fruit and vegetables. They're the foods we want you to eat. And so the if desired is basically there because we don't want people to just not eat whole groups of food, because you might then be missing out on a lot of the vitamins and the minerals that are going to help you feel well and also manage inflammation if you have arthritis as well, and or reduce cholesterol and or manage diabetes, or all of those things together. So I'm very keen to get people eating as diversely as possible once we get to determining your tolerance and seeing what you can cope with. And a little extra detail on that is that onion and garlic fructans can cause a lot of problems for people who have stomach issues. They're probably one of the ones that will turn up in most people's triggers. They are also prebiotic foods, and prebiotics are really important for your gut microbiome, for your good gut biome to flourish. That can help with anti-inflammation, potentially decrease your risk of other chronic illnesses. So if you have a tolerance, we want to find it, because we don't want you to avoid the fruit and vegetables, but we don't want you to avoid the prebiotic nature of something like onion, garlic, and your lentils and your legumes. Of course, if you're really unwell, and I've had clients in the past that have been really unwell and they just can't tolerate, that's different, because you can't just feel unwell all the time. And then if avoiding these things helps you feel a lot better, then most people will choose to do that. But where possible, we want you to put in as many of the foods back in as you can. So what you see here with the low FODMAP diet is similar in nature with the process of doing the elimination diet. So the elimination diet is a little bit more strict. It involves reducing almost all your fruit and vegetables. You can basically only eat pear without skin on the elimination diet. The low FODMAP diet, you can eat lots of different fruits and vegetables in the elimination phase. You can eat raspberries, strawberries, rock melon, honeydew, kiwi, mandarin, oranges. I mean, there's more than that, which is why it's a lot easier to do the FODMAP. So it's a similar process. You do the elimination, then you do the challenges, and then we do reintroduction, and then you experiment with tolerance levels, but just for different components of food. That's the amines, the salicylates, the glutamates, and this is your oligosaccharides, fructose, lactose, polyols, etc. It's just finding the one that works best for you and what we can do to help you depending on the symptoms that you have. So I hope that gives you a good rundown on the low FODMAP diet, as well as sensitivities versus allergies, and that you might be thinking in your mind, have I tried this before? And if I haven't, I think I might want to, and I might go in this direction or this direction. If you do either of these eliminations, I do recommend that you get support from a dietitian. And I'm sorry I'm not seeing clients one-on-one at the moment, but there are lots of dietitians now that are very good at the low FODMAP diet, as well as the elimination. And you can also get in contact with the Royal Prince Alfred Allergy Unit, which will do, they've got dietitians that do the elimination, but there are lots of dietitians in private practice that will do both of these eliminations for you. But I can say with the FODMAP, you can already start the elimination with the app. The app is so good now. With the app, where those first 2 weeks, experiment. If you start to feel better, then you think, right, I'm going to connect with a dietitian that can help me go through all the challenges and the tolerance levels, because some of this balance at the end, it helps if you've got someone to bounce with and tell them what's happening, and they give you ideas of how to get your balance right. Okay, Sarah, so I'm going to just stop sharing so that then you can throw any questions at me, but I hope that that was helpful.
Sure it was.
So you've just finished watching part 1 of one of our recent educational events. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you'd like to access part 2, then you need to sign up for BJC Connect. It's a free platform where you can access not just the recordings of past events, but also access a whole range of upcoming future events and access our team of facilitators live. All of the details that you need to join BJC Connect are now flashing up on your screen. Otherwise, like our staff, subscribe if you'd like to see more information from BJC Health. Look forward to seeing you in an event soon.